listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, the place to learn about new technology and technological advances before they become mainstream. This podcast is sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. It's not about the destination. It's about going someplace you never thought possible. Go to imaginenext.ingrammicro.com to find out more. Let's get into it.
Welcome to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. I'm your host, Shelby Skrhak, and our guests today are Annette Miller, Multicloud Partner Development Manager for VMware, and Illyse Sheaffer, Cloud SDI Technical Solution Specialist for Intel. Annette and Illyse, welcome.
Thanks so much, Shelby.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, today we are talking about multi-cloud with VMware and Intel. But first, let's specify what exactly what it is that we're discussing today. So, Illyse, when we say multi-cloud, so there's always some confusion, at least for me. So, the multi-cloud we're talking about today, I mean that's not the hybrid of private and public cloud. I mean, it's the hyperscalers that offer these multiple types of the same type or same kind of cloud. Am I understanding that or explaining that right?
So when you have a hybrid cloud, you have an on-prem and you have a public cloud, and they're built together on a layer 2 extension. So you can extend the workload without having to change the IP addresses and things like that. It can fail over automatically, fail back. There's a lot of scale up, scale back with the same IP scheme, with the same AD infrastructure, that type of thing. When you have multiple clouds, it's multiple, and not all of them are all connected in one IP landscape or one bridge across them all. So you may have some services in a public cloud being Azure, some other in Google, some other in an IBM Kyndryl cloud, just, multiple clouds doing different things, not all connected, but they could be doing containers in all three of them. They're just doing different workloads in all three. And so that's the multi part. It's literally trying to manage the complexity of that.
Right. Well, obviously there are a lot of options out there when it comes to hyperscalers like, Azure, IBM, AWS, all of those. So, Annette, how does VMware help with multi-cloud?
Yeah, Shelby. So what we do with multi-cloud is we've created technology for a multi-cloud platform that works with all of those hyperscalers that you mentioned and more. And so how we are helping our partners and our customers is we've taken a lot of the same technology, a lot of the same skills that they've developed over the years, and we've evolved them into the cloud. So if they've got an implementation of our VMware cloud, we abbreviate it VMC, VMware cloud on any of those hyperscalers, you'll see that same VMware Cloud Console on each hyperscaler. You'll use those same VMware technologies that you've known to love over the years to deploy in those clouds. Of course, then there are other skills that you'll need on top of that, but not as much as you might think. Now, the other thing that happens is when we deploy this platform on any given hyperscaler, then that gives the customer access to the native cloud services, whether it be Azure or Google or AWS or any of those. So it's we see it as a step into cloud with migration tools. And it's an easier, I don't know about gentler way, but an easier way to get to cloud. And what we've experienced with our partners is oftentimes their customers might say, I want to jump to a native cloud right away. And they start looking at the migration and looking at the dev work that they might have to do. And they sit back and take a breath and say, hey, maybe I want to get my workloads onto the platform with VMware Cloud, something that I know and love. And then I can make choices in a timely manner. Do I want to move some of this to native? Do I want to really do the programming that is required for cloud native? And so we kind of help pull it all together and help our customers get to cloud. And many of them then want to stay there with VMware and reach out to those native services.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the skills part of it, because we've seen this great resignation. We're seeing we are already in an IT shortage of skills-based experts in various elements of IT. And now it seems like, the IT teams that are still in place, they're having to do a little bit of a lot and kind of having to know everything. So going back to VMC or VMware Cloud, what are the skill sets that are needed then to be able to implement this? I mean, is it pretty high level, or is there kind of maybe resources and more of a, like you said, a gentler way to implement all of this?
Yeah. So I can give it to you at a high level, and then I'll turn it over to Illyse. She knows a lot more about the technology. Like I said, a lot of the skills are the same as they've used on premises. Where we're seeing some of the partners have hiccups and get hung up is more in the networking. And then we've got a migration tool included, HCX. And those are the ones where I've seen partners that maybe need to skill up a little bit more and have some hiccups. But I don't want to throw out 90% of the skills are the same, but they don't have to relearn a lot of skills for it. But at least you've probably seen things in more detail than I have.
Yeah, so with the the VMware Cloud, I mean, you have the same VMware Cloud Foundation platform. It is the same on-prem as if you used it in the public cloud, one of the VMC public clouds, right? So getting to the public cloud and doing that OpEx model is easy because it's the same tools that you used yesterday, the day before. The sysops are the same. Now you can then platform and do infrastructure as code using the DevOps people with the configuration management and automation pieces, right? And that way you can use your Chef, your Puppet, your Salt stack along with with Terraform or VMware templates in order to create that code as infrastructure to build in any of the public clouds native or in VMware. And again, it's the same console, it's the same dashboard. So the people that are doing the sysops piece or the DevOps piece, it's the same that they know and love today, whether it be on-prem or in a public cloud. And the tool set just carries over. Right? So they don't have to learn all the new stuff right today. I'll be honest with you, using other people's configuration management access tools or automation management access tools, plagiarism is the best form of flattery. Just tweak it out, right? I mean, download it. You need to understand it. Don't get me wrong. You do need to understand it, but then tweak it for what makes sense for you and your environment to position it to a platform of your choice. And being with VMware, again, it's the same VCF concept, it's the same ESXi, it's the same vSAN, software-defined manager. I love the HCX because when they upgrade from on-prem to public cloud, they can also change their hardware virtualization platform for the VM. What that does is allows you to use the hardware to the ability of the hardware that it is. So on-prem, the customer might be having, say, a Broadwell server because they're running 3, 5, 7 years out, right? And it's now time to refresh. When they migrate it over into a public cloud because they don't want to they can't build quick enough. There's no space in the data center. And frankly, the IT departments are being told you need to manage the applications, not be managing the infrastructure. Well, okay, now I'm going to migrate it over. Don't forget to change the hardware platform for the VM. If you don't change the virtual hardware platform for the VM, your Broadwell, when you bring it over with HCX, is going to act like a Broadwell, but it might be sitting on a newer server. So you're not using all the technology that's there. You're hindering yourself from getting full optimization. So it's one of the key things to think about and to understand. It's an extra step. There's some people that know to do it, and there's some people that don't, which is why I bring it up.
Yeah. Well, Annette, when we are talking about, that customer that is looking at all of the different options for hyperscalers and they're looking to try to choose one, how does that customer go about that? I mean, I guess what's important to think about?
Yeah, so most important, I think, are the requirements for the workload, right? Is there a certain hyperscaler instance that will work better for that workload or maybe meet some of the governmental requirements or certifications? All kinds of things like that. Sometimes it's choosing which regions are those clouds in, and where do I have to, do I need to stay within the borders of a certain state or a certain country or something like that? And sometimes a customer is looking at a certain set of native services that they want to tie into. What I've seen oftentimes is a customer or a partner will choose a primary cloud, and then maybe they'll say, I want a secondary cloud for DR, or I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket or something like that. When people were buying only on-prem, a lot of times they used two different vendors for x86 servers because they didn't want to have all their eggs in one basket. It's kind of interesting. I've talked with, I had a call with one partner today, another call with a partner tomorrow. Today's call, the partner says, I'm only Microsoft. That's all I do. I only care about your Azure VMware offering, AVS. The one tomorrow, Google is all they do. They're all in with Google. So they'll go Google Cloud Platform. Now, those partners that are working with customers, what's kind of interesting about that is as they deploy this VMware Cloud Platform on those two hyperscalers I just mentioned, they've also made it possible for their customers to reach out to other clouds with that same set of technologies too. So what I like about VMC, our offering, is you haven't locked yourself into one hyperscaler and only one hyperscaler, right? Like we mentioned before, we can go with AWS, we can go with Azure, we can go with Google, we can go with IBM, we can go with, almost name your favorite hyperscaler right now. So that's what I really like is it allows that flexibility for our customers.
Yeah, it's fully portable. So VMware has over 4,000 cloud partners that they work with offering VMC. And in the 4,000, say today you want to be with AWS. Tomorrow you can be with Google, Azure, Dell, IBM, pick your favorite, HP, GreenLake. It's 100% portable, and it's portable without any migration downtime at all. So you can migrate the workload from one to the other and not lose or have to re-platform or have to put VMware tools on it or anything, because they're all based upon Intel infrastructure. So you have that common, consistent commonality, not just with the VMC and the VMware platform, VCF platform. You also have the same thing from your hardware aspect in all of your public clouds.
Gotcha. Well, we've covered some parts of this, but at least when a customer does migrate, I guess, big picture, how do you advise them about managing multiple clouds? I guess if their eyes are starting to widen and going, okay, this is getting complex, how do you advise them or how do you guide them?
So if they're trying to migrate from an on-prem to a public and they're using VMware, the easiest way to do that is with the VCM platform. VMware Cloud Platform, in and of itself, it's the same tool set. It's truly easy. It's truly, yes, you do have to set up some networking if you want to have that layer 2 extension. If you don't want to have that layer 2 extension where your workload can fail over from one place to the other, you want to do manual failover, you don't have to have that layer 2 extension. But it does provide benefits in scale up, scale back. Right? It does provide benefits with disaster recovery and, seamless migration over. You do have HCX. It's very easy to do. It is, literally you click what you want to migrate to. You tell it you want to change the hardware. You want to update the hardware virtual platform and you press go and it does it. It proxies it and it compresses it so that it's not causing huge networking bandwidth on the other side. So those are the easy buttons that are there versus having to re-platform, reprogram, rebuild the application in of itself. Now, if the application is truly really, really old, it may benefit to step back and look at what do I need to do from that application standpoint, because the application probably isn't working as optimally as it could with the hardware. So it's not maybe multi-threaded. It might be single-threaded still. VMC can still work with those applications. They're virtualized. It's abstracted from the hardware. So you've got the ability to do that.
So Annette, when we look at, I guess, the big picture of VMware Cloud solutions, can you pinpoint maybe some reasons that people are moving to VMC with greater frequency or maybe just, of late, why there's been such a prevalence of it?
Yeah, I think that, we've already mentioned a lot of that, it's an easier transition, a smoother transition over for those workloads. And I think what we're also seeing is that just lately, probably within the last couple of months, some of the smaller customers are looking at really being able to leverage what they have on premises, as Illyse mentioned, right? That same VMware Cloud Foundation, and moving that into the cloud. I'm seeing a little bit more hybridity pop up, again, to be able to scale up, scale down a little bit. The other thing that becomes interesting in here is as those customers look at maybe more than one cloud and think about, hey, I can plug into the management above it with what is now vRealize becoming VMware Aria, to span, right, those multiple clouds to one, two, or more and on premises and be able to manage from a single managed platform. That becomes really interesting. Also, if I kind of look at an adjacent space, one of our cloud solutions, Shelby, is VCDR, the disaster recovery as a service. So this is something that most of our partners are familiar with how to deploy DR, but kind of in the legacy way, right? I've got some hot, warm, cold site somewhere. When we look at disaster recovery as a service, that opens up kind of a new window to say, I either want to supplement what I've had before, or maybe I want to step into this as a service model. And one of the hot buttons there has been, we've got capabilities to help recover from a ransomware incident. So that's piqued a lot of interest here. Those are some of the things I've seen recently about, moving to our VMware Cloud solutions.
Yeah. Well, we love to hear examples of, these technology solutions kind of in real world scenarios. So Illyse, can you share any use cases of VMware Cloud with Intel inside?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. I've seen and heard a lot of customers going to VMC in a public cloud because of supply chain management. In and of itself, weren't able to get the hardware that he needed to build, to go to market as quickly as possible for the groups that I have to buy for. So they bought in public cloud, in VMC public cloud, in order to provide the services that they needed for their customer, which is their business, right? That was the biggest gain there. And especially with a lot of people having to upgrade their VMware by the end of, by October 15th, right? It went at 6.5 and 6.7 or end of life in the 15th of October. A lot of customers weren't able to get that hardware. How are they going to be able to manage and stay under support? Here's a way to do it. It's quick. It's easy. Even if they were just using ESXi in, just vSphere, they can move to the VMC in the cloud, move their VMs over and still have the service that they need. So those are some things. What I have seen personally from the customers that I've worked with, I've seen financial people, the financial industry. I've seen IoTG. So a lot of the retail with Internet of Things, as I walk into a store, and they're tracking me via my phone because I have Bluetooth on my phone and I have the app, and they know that I've gone to the clothing section, and I get the little ding on my app. Hey, do you see these leggings? They're on sale type of thing. And it's trying to do that. All that analytic is being keyed up at the store, but being sent and analyzed up in VMC in a public cloud in containers in order to provide response back to my phone to tell me, hey, there's a sale on those leggings, and oh, don't forget the spick and span over there in the cleaning area, right? So you see a lot of use cases. I have seen DR. A lot of people run into DR as the first way of doing it, right? Because it's quick, it's easy. Let me test it out. I'm not really committed for production, but then they start moving production over. And so you'll see some production there. With AWS, they offer a new i4i series, which is Flex Compute, where you don't have to buy dedicated nodes. You're on multi-tenant nodes, and you can buy in at a smaller infrastructure size than to bring a whole solution of 75 VMs over at a time. You can build 5 VMs, 6 VMs, 7 VMs, and then grow. And as you grow, then you can go to dedicated if you need to. So you have that flexibility there. They also have the flex storage for the storage on the back end. But yeah, there's that flexibility there, and you want to start with the lowest hanging fruit, just like you went into the public cloud with the lowest hanging fruit. What did you put there? You put your web servers there, right? You kind of want to do DR. You want to kind of put your web servers there and then grow from there. But different workloads. The only thing I really haven't seen in a public cloud yet is high-end databases. Yes, totally 100% certified, but customers like to keep their databases with their particular data. The kingdoms has to stay at home because of, it's mine, right? It's my data. It's my livelihood. So you do have some of that there. And then a lot of the clouds, the public clouds do have the compliance, whether it's HIPAA, PCI, DSS, and you've got your GDPR. So they're being offered again in every one of the public cloud offerings has a piece of that the compliance pieces. All of it sits on Intel today because of the compatibility and the consistent, not just the consistent performance, but the ability to migrate back and forth without having to retool, without having to reimage.
Well, so as we do start to wrap up our episode today, we always ask our guests the same final question, and that's, where do you see technology going in the next year? Now, that is, of course, very broad, but within this space, we can kind of look at the short term. Where are we going to be in 2023? And Annette, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah. So from our perspective, I think you'll continue to see more and tighter integration between our VMware products across the clouds and the management. Illyse mentioned the Flex Compute, a place that you can start at a smaller scale, and I'll see that move from preview into GA over the course of the next year. And not from necessarily a technology capability perspective, but simplifying things for our customers and ease of use. You'll see more of our partners' offerings in marketplaces, and you'll also see our buying program, Cloud Universal, which now includes on-premises. It includes AWS. We're bringing in the Google Cloud. I think you'll see some of the other clouds later, so that our customers can choose which bits of on-prem, which bits of the hyperscalers they want, and not have to do so many different transactions. So those are a couple of things that I see that will come to fruition in 2023.
Illyse, how about you?
So I see everybody's trying to do as much as they can with IT. COVID was a pent-up demand of refresh and upgrades and getting to market as quickly as possible, but we were home. Now we're back in the office, and a lot of refresh has happened because it needed to, just like 6.7, 6.5 have now end of life. Now you're moving to 7.0, maybe to 8.0. It just released October 11th, right? And you're looking to that next piece of functionality, but it's about being optimal. And to that end, I see it's all about simplicity and all about managing quickly with a finer tooth without a lot of cost to it. And the reason being is because everybody's tightening belt with the economy, right? So you have to be able to show I can save dollars in order to do the next thing, because I need to still innovate. I cannot stop innovating, and VMC gives you the ability to innovate at an OpEx model where you're not paying for the whole kitchen or the whole data center, and you're focusing on your applications in and of itself, because it's about giving back to the company as quickly and as functionally as possible with the optimal dollar bills. So I'm very cognitive of that. I'm also very cognitive of data. There are a lot of companies that need to look to really monetize the data that they have. The most precious thing that every company has is the data that they have, and analyzing it to get the trends out to see where they need to go next. And that I see is another big thing coming in this next year.
Absolutely. Well, for listeners who wanted to find out more about what we talked about today or ask any questions, Annette, how can they reach out?
Yeah, so a couple ways. If you're a partner listening, you can go into your VMware Partner Connect portal and find more about that, find more sales content and Partner University. You can also, if you're a customer listening or want to direct customers, you can go to VMware.com. Multi-cloud is front and center in how we help customers move from cloud first to cloud chaos to cloud smart.
Excellent. Well, Annette, Illyse, thank you so much for joining me and all of the insight today. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks so much, Shelby.
Thank you.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in and subscribing to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. If you like this episode or have a question, please join the discussion on Twitter with the hashtag B2B Tech Talk. Until next time, I'm Shelby Skrhak.
You've been listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. This episode was sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. B2B Tech Talk is a joint production with Sweetfish Media and Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro production handled by Laura Burton and Christine Fan. To not miss an episode, subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform.